We're going to dive into a mystery that's thousands of years old, and it all comes from a single, really puzzling line in the book of Genesis. It's a story about two sisters, a pretty tough marriage, and a legacy that honestly nobody could have seen coming.
And here it is, the verse that kicks the whole thing off. Genesis 29:17. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. I mean, right out of the gate, the text hits you with this incredibly blunt, almost cruel comparison. One sister gets to be beautiful, the other is defined by, well, a supposed flaw.
So that brings us to the big question, right? What in the world does it actually mean for eyes to be weak? Is the text just insulting her? Or could it be some kind of backhanded compliment? Or maybe, just maybe, it's code for something much, much deeper going on.
And the Bible doesn't waste any time laying out the drama. You've got Leah, the older sister with these weak eyes, who is totally unloved by her husband Jacob. And then there's Rachel, the younger one, who's described as shapely and beautiful, and is, of course, the one Jacob is madly in love with. It really feels like we're being set up for a classic tragedy here.
Okay, so first things first, let's put on our detective hats and dig into this single ancient word that's at the very heart of this whole debate. The word itself is rakat, and here's what's so fascinating. It is incredibly ambiguous. I mean, depending on how you read it, it can mean weak, or tender, or delicate, or soft. This one little word has been the source of literally centuries of arguments among scholars.
And that ambiguity has created two totally opposite ways of seeing this. The negative view? It means her eyes were dull, maybe lusterless, basically a blemish. But the positive view flips that completely. It could mean they were delicate, gentle, sensitive. Maybe they were considered a really attractive feature. So how can one word mean such wildly different things?
Well, the traditional rabbinic explanation gives us a pretty amazing third option. It completely reframes the whole picture. According to ancient commentaries, Leah was actually supposed to marry Jacob's rough, hairy brother Esau. And the idea horrified her so much that she just cried and cried, praying to God to change her fate. Her eyes became weak or soft from all the weeping. So in this light, her weak eyes aren't a flaw at all. They're a badge of honor, a sign of her incredible piety.
All right, now let's shift gears. Let's look at this through a modern academic lens, which asks a really provocative question. What if this was never really about her eyes at all, but about how her society judged her?
So here's a crucial insight from modern scholars. The narrator might be describing Leah's undesirability as if it were a physical disability. It's not that she was disabled, but she was treated like she was, and that's what limited her value in that world.
To really get that, you have to understand two different ways of thinking about disability. There's the medical model, which says a disability is a problem inside a person's body. But then there's the sociocultural model, and this is the key. It says disability is actually created by society, by cultural attitudes and barriers that hold people back. It's not about your body, it's about the world you live in.
This builds on a really interesting philosophical idea, deformity. Now, a deformity here isn't just about looks. It's when an object's form keeps it from doing what it's supposed to do. Like a chair with only 3 legs. Its form frustrates its purpose, which is to be a stable seat.
So how does that connect back to Leah? Well, in the patriarchal world of Genesis, a woman's main purpose or end was seen as having children. So any perceived physical weakness that even hinted she might not be good for childbearing could be labeled a deformity. It's something that frustrates her cultural purpose, and that in turn makes her less desirable.
But this is where the story just completely flips the script. This is the great reversal where all those human judgments get turned on their head by some serious divine irony.
I mean, just look at this chart. It tells you everything. Leah, weak, eyes, unloved. Rachel, beautiful, beloved. But then you get to fertility, the very thing she was being judged on, and the roles are totally reversed. The text says God opened her womb, and she becomes incredibly fertile, while Rachel, the beautiful one, is barren for years. It's an unbelievable twist.
And we're not talking just a little bit fertile. She has 7 children. 7! 6 sons and 1 daughter. For Jacob, who's trying to build a nation, this is just a mind-blowing number. The woman who is seen as defective turns out to be the most fruitful of all.
What's really cool is you can actually track her emotional journey in the names she gives her first 4 sons. With Reuben, she's so hopeful. Now my husband will love me. With Simeon and Levi, you can still feel the pain of Jacob's rejection. But then comes Judah, and there's this huge shift. She says, "This time I will praise the Lord."
She stops looking for validation from her husband and finds it somewhere else entirely.
And all of this builds to her unbelievable lasting legacy. The rejected sister, the unloved wife, ends up becoming the primary matriarch of an entire nation.
And what a lineage! Her son Reuben is the firstborn. Her son Levi becomes the ancestor of the entire priestly tribe. We're talking Moses and Aaron. And most important of all, her son Judah is the ancestor of the royal line, the tribe of King David himself. In the end, she's the matriarch for half of the 12 tribes of Israel, including both the priesthood and the kingship. It's just incredible.
But there's one last, quiet little detail that just speaks volumes. At the end of his life, Jacob, the man who never seemed to truly love her, gives a very specific instruction. He asks to be buried not with his beloved Rachel, but next to Leah in the ancestral tomb. It's this final, quiet acknowledgement of just how central she was to his entire life and legacy.
And you know, this isn't just some dusty old story. It's so relevant. As the scholar Julia Bilsera points out, the rhetoric of defectiveness has been used time and time again as part of the architecture of disenfranchisement. Leah's story is this timeless, powerful example of how societies use perceived flaws to judge people and to push them to the margins.
Which really leaves us with one last question to chew on. After everything, who really had the weak eyes? Was it Leah, the woman judged by her appearance? Or was it Jacob, the man who was blind to her true worth for so long?